Greetings from Celestia. How are you doing? I hope you're doing fine because I have a very special guest today on my show, Ignite with Sandi. And she is actually going to fire up your neurons. So when I was getting ready for this, I asked her, I said, are you going to be on time? And she said, oh, no worries at all. I've just finished with OPD and I'll just be there. And I thought to myself, oh my God, she is doing something so complicated that requires her full focus and attention. And then she's just going to switch from that and come on this webinar and talk to us. Isn't that amazing? Isn't it? And you know what? I have so many questions for her. And when I'm asking those questions, it's going to be very much what's going on in your mind when you listen, because we are going to talk about the power of the female brain, right? And what is it that she said now? You see, I've become so old, I've forgotten, and I need my neurons to be ignited again. So she has something which she calls romancing with the brain. Isn't that lovely? And she dates the brain every day. So I'm going to skip the usual, so-and-so, and she does this and she does that. All I'm going to say is this is a Wonder Woman. She wears so many different crowns and she continues to grow and to develop. And she's a perfect example of what a woman can be. So I'm going to ask her to give a very brief introduction about herself, because there's so many things, and I think she'll be the best person to tell you what she thinks is important. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my amazing guest, Dr. Sweta. Take it away, Doctor.
Thank you, Sandi, and good evening and welcome to all the friends who are listening on the Celestia Live. Thank you, first of all, for inviting me. Yes, I was with the patients just a few minutes back, and I'm right here. So I always say that I am a brain plumber, aka a neurologist. That's about fixing the broken brains, but I'm not so much happy doing that. You know, what I'm happy doing is really kindling the normal brains. So my story started something like that. You know, I'm basically from India, and in India, there are two kinds of marriages, Sandi. One is a love marriage and one is an arranged marriage. And I would say that careers are also of two types: love career and arranged career. And for me, my parents were both into medical doctors, and I got a lot of marks. So what do I do? You know, so they said, try medicine. So I went with the pretext of trying medicine, 5 years of MBBS, 1 year of internship, 1 year of pre-medicine, 3 years of medicine, 1 year of pre-neurology, 3 years of neurology, and 2 years in stroke. It's that I studied. When I did that, I sort of fell in love with the brain, and thank God that happened. So my love, essentially the arranged career, became love. And today here I am. I cannot treat kidney or heart. I mean, it's not that I don't like them, but all I like is the brain. So currently I'm a neurologist and also medical director with Arabian Healthcare Group of company. I'm based out of a beautiful emirate, just about 45 minutes from Dubai. And also, as you were rightly mentioning that, you know, my brain is always on the fire. I love to do certain things. One of them is writing. So I just got a book of mine, which is just out. It's one of the best-selling books for counseling the children about their brains and to design their life path. You know, I had some hurdles, and I could figure out eventually. So I thought, why not help others to find their career paths absolutely just bang on by understanding their brains. And I'm extremely passionate to talk about the woman brain, that what we are going to do, because I think it's all here and everything is possible. So that's a short introduction about me. But thank you again, guys, for having me here.
So my first question for you is this, Doctor. Are women's brains wired differently, or is it just a myth?
Okay. Yes, definitely. Women's brain, man's brain, children's brain, everybody's brain is wired to an extent little differently. But brain itself is a very, very interesting organ, you know, so we evolve. Let's talk a little interesting thing about, you know, evolution of the brain. So we all come, essentially, we have three kinds of brain right here as I'm talking to you within our brain system. One of them is a fish brain or a vertebrate brain. Then came the reptilian brain. Reptilians are little, you know, little creepy, crawly creatures. And then came the mammalian brain. So if you see the elephants and all the animals, they have sort of the love, compassion, that's the mammalian brain. And then there is a bigger brain called the rational brain or cognitive brain. So we evolved into these different kinds of brains. And currently also our sort of all these brains are firing. Now, what happened many years ago was that we were hunting. So our essential, we were actually hunting to get our food, and men especially would go hunting and women would take care of children. In that process of evolution, so men's brains started to be, very sharp. They are like, okay, just give them one task, one focus, and they do it well. For women, okay, you take care of children, and then you also cook, and then you take care of home chores and domestic stuff. And that's how their brains got wired a shade different, a little bit different. I often joke and say, okay, send a man to a closet and let him get a pair of socks, which is just lying right in front of him. And I bet he will not find it. The same way, if you want to send him to a fridge, a drawer of fridge, and say, oh, the yogurt is just lying there, and he will not find it. I bet it, because this is how they're wired, So it is
okay.
wired.
So yeah, you were talking about how we've evolved and how men were focused on some things, where yet women have to do more than one thing. So are we master multitaskers? Does that come to us naturally?
So multitasking, yeah, multitasking. I mean, with the current world of distraction of the gadgets that we live in, technically we are all multitasking to some extent, right? There is a little bit of a ping going on in a social media, and there is a little bit going on in the email space. There's something going on in a personal space. So, but the question is, are we wired to be multitasking? That's the question. And our women brain, especially, sort of more able to multitask. So to a certain extent, yes. Why is it so? Because if you look at the brain is formed of left and right side, and it is connected with a very thick band of fibers. There's like millions of fibers in there, which is called corpus callosum. So what the scientists have found is very interesting. In the women's brain, this band of fiber is very thick, which means now you can have back and forth more information going on, and they're able to retain those information better, perform in that certain situation better, and can multitask. While that is not the case with the men. So that's why they are sort of, unifocused, give them one task at a time, and then they can do it better. But now the overall question of, the world of distraction, etc. and all, I personally feel that the brains can be trained to do anything that you want. I mean, you can do wonders. It's a powerhouse of things, of possibilities. I often say that one brain, infinite possibilities, the 100 billion neurons, the trillions of synapses. We can do anything that we want, provided that we are understanding how that capability is being developed.
Yeah, because nowadays, you hear a lot of women who are in the workforce or running their own businesses, etc., and they seem to be rather frayed at the edges. They're sort of having a burnout, and they can't seem to cope. So, considering that you yourself do many things, you're a TEDx speaker, you're an author, you are into dancing, you're into classical music, and you're a director of your department at the RAC hospital, and also a consultant. So keeping yourself in mind as an example, and also knowing a lot more than we do, what would your pointers be to women who are like, I'm lost, I don't know what to do, I'm depressed, I'm tired, whatever?
Yes, I think, Sandi, it's a very pertinent question that you are asking. A lot of women a lot of people, I mean, why call of women alone? A lot of people that I meet are very burnt out, they are stressed. I think stress is the wonder word which everybody uses right now. Everybody is sort of, in that realm of frustration. And I think post-COVID, there's been a slightly more sort of this, what we are hearing from. And I often tell about this and say the one denominator, one thing which is the center focus of all of this is regulation of the mind. How do you prepare for the mind? That is what decides what you sort of become and what you get, you know. I mean, we cannot be problem immune. Problems are going to come, but there are two kinds of mindset that we all have. One is a fixed mindset and one is a growth mindset. And essentially, growth mindset is not something that I can, you know, just okay, there's a little cap and then that's where I can have a growth mindset. You need to prepare for it. So what I have done in my life, personally speaking about me, is it is very important for each of us, you know, each of us to define our why. Why am I doing what I'm doing? I think there is a beautiful book by Simon Sinek, which is one of my favorite books, talking about why. Why am I doing a certain task? Why am I doing a certain thing? You know, that purpose and meaning is what is kindling in the brain, and that purpose is pivotal in anything that we do. So my message today for all of us who are listening here is that, you know, find your individual why for anything that you're doing. What will happen is your brain will automatically create pathways. It will automatically allow you to focus on the outcome of that why that you're wondering for, and it will happen as an automatic behavior. But we need to figure out, we need to journalize it, we need to reflect it. I mean, that's my every single day's activity, right? So I always say there are three things that I do in life every single day. Whatever come rain, shine, I don't care, but this is what I do. The first thing that I do is gratitude. So whenever I'm showering, because, you know, you have to connect it to something, otherwise you forget, you know, brain is like that. So when I take a shower, it's always the gratitude time. So every little thing that helped me, every person that came into my life, every event that helped me be who I am thankful for that. So that's number one. And by the way, you'll be surprised to know that simple act of kindness and gratitude grows more brain cells. There has been studies which have shown that the people who practice gratitude have actually an exceptional certain types of circuits in the brain. So that's something very, you know, easy to carry and easy to do. The second thing which I do is, you know, I look into the mirror and say, this is who I am. This is what I need to give to the world. This is why I'm here and I have to do it, you know. So whatever the depression and mood and so many things are happening, and but that all remains at the back. And the number three thing is, we all of us have something called the theta moment in the brain. Let me explain this a little bit better. The brains have four fundamental waves that the brain performs, you know. One of them is when you're relaxed, absolutely lying down, that's the alpha, okay? When you're thinking. So let us say, Sandi, you give me a mathematical problem and I solve that problem, that is the beta, which is going on. It's a fast rhythm. Then when I'm just about to be creative, or just you know, having a creative idea and a thought, it's theta. And when I go off to sleep, it's delta. Each of us has the ability to get into this theta mode. And that theta mode for me individually is when I'm just about to sleep. So what I do is I have a little bit of a notepad and a pen. I mean, you can use always your digital stuff, but digital stuffs are distracting automatically. Suddenly I may see Sandi's message and I go off distracted. So that's why it's always a good time. Pen and paper is still a better option. So that's your theta time. Some people have theta time in the shower. Some people have theta time as they're driving. Some people can have theta time when they're just sitting. So it depends, you know, it all depends on when is your theta time. That is the time when you're most creative. You're solving most of your problems. Just pick it up and note those time. And believe me or not, then when you go back to that, when you're conscious, when you are out of that state, you can actually do a lot of things in life. So this is sort of a short hack, I would say, you know, to live better.
Quite true. Okay, now the other thing is, you know, as you said, you know, we have this corpus callosum, and then we have all this thing going around from side to side, and we can do plenty of things at one time. So when we are dealing with men, be it in the office, be it in your hospital, be it with a business person who's male, and we are doing what we are doing naturally, but we generally come across as being scatterbrained, not in focus. Can't she get her thoughts together? Why is she going off tangent? So how can we bring ourselves into that little focus that allows us to communicate effectively in the workforce, in business, even at home with our male relatives? How can we do that to be a little more conscious about how we communicate?
I think diversity is beautiful. God would not have made a man brain or a woman brain, if he didn't have to serve certain purpose. So I think the wiring of the natures, or the purpose of the nature's wiring, is very distinct, is very unique, that one person takes care of a certain tasks and the women can take care of a certain task. So I think in the workplace setting, in an environment when we are working, it's all about perception. And I absolutely agree to the point of gender difference. Yes, it is existing, and it's unfortunately a sad thing, because we are all essentially wired to complement each other. So whatever the men's brain sort of misses out, the women's brain can pick it up. And also there are many studies which have been shown, that in a typical woman's brain, so the two sides, or coherence, talking of the two sides of the brain, is much better, much faster, while in the men's brain, it is almost in the same brain what is happening. So considering all of those features, you would see a little bit more tendency towards being perfectionist in a woman, a little bit more tendency to sort of be obsessed by certain tasks, a little bit towards, self-doubts also, cropping out, that am I enough? Am I this? So these are all the natural perceptions which the society has unfortunately sort of put around. But if you look at the actual real biology of it, in the evolutionary process, there's nothing like that. So my message to every single woman who is part of this is that claim yourself, claim your potentials, claim your talents, claim who you are as a person. And again, why are you here? The moment you will do that, and very important is, always treat yourself. So although, I'm a minimalist, I just use around 21 items in my life. I started with 100, became 70, 50, and 20. I'm quite happy with a few things in my life. But I think very important is to treat. And that treat can be in terms of, pampering oneself, or just eating chocolate, ice cream, whatever that may be for the thing. But it is very important to do that, to keep the morale. I mean, yes, we live in a world where there are some disparities, where there are some issues in some countries, some places, some there, and this is always going to remain until this evolutionary process is understood. And that is why I'm very passionate about this particular topic, to bring it up,
Yeah. So when we, for example, women are going through a rough time, and we tend to sort of take in more of the negative and sort of ignore the positive. So we sort of take on this criticism or failure, or what other people said about us, and when it's not in a positive way, we tend to dwell on that much more. So what does that do to our brain, or whatever, when we get into this mode of self-doubt, and not valuing ourselves, and worrying so much about why did that person disagree with me, or not compliment me, or whatever else?
Absolutely.
What happens in our mind, in our brain as such?
Yeah, so the interesting thing about mind is, and it happens to irrespective of men or women, is that we are always, it's like a Velcro to negative things, and it's a Teflon to positive. So it just catches hold of these negative self-doubts, negative thinking, a route. There's always this thing in the mind going on. I'm not enough. This is not happening. Why am I being tried? I cannot do this. There's always this chatter within our mind, which is always happening. And I think the biggest way to overcome this is to understand the functioning of the mind itself. Now, again, I'll go back to evolution, because we all evolved into a process of, what was the main important thing for us? Survival. In those times, we had to live. We had to just focus and protect our lives and survive. So survival, growth, and propagation, that was sort of the fundamental reason why we sort of were into the progeny, and so many things happen into the evolution. But what is more important, which majority of us don't understand, is the evolution. The mind is so much capable to do so many things, provided we understand how does it function. Now, it's like I was reading a very interesting book called The Chimp Paradox. So mind is little like a monkey, either you cage it or you give it a banana. So that's what was the sort of the story of that book. And mind has to be understood only by conscious reflection. Now, 5% of our mind is only conscious, 5%. 95%. I mean, that's a whooping number when I reflect about it. 95% is subconscious. whatever we are self-talking, what you just said, whatever we are feeding the subconscious is what just gets merely reflected in the conscious. So what is our job? Our job is to stop and say, hey, I am going to reprogram myself. I am going to rethink. And I think you are a fantastic example. Reading your story, is so inspiring what you did with your life. And I absolutely salute the capacities with which you came back and, with which you changed essentially. And what did you change? The way you programmed yourself. And that is what makes absolute difference in people's life, if each of us can do what you just did. And I would encourage all the viewers here to please read what Sandi did in her life. It's just
Yeah, okay. So when we're talking about the subconscious and how we can do this, so you're a medical doctor and you've studied the brain and whatever else. And on the other hand, you're quite holistic. And you're talking about how we can make changes and think positive and the theta and all of that, which is quite what all these meditation people teach us. So when we're coming to the meditation part and what is that supposed to do, like breath work and calming ourselves, and from the neurological side, what does that do with the brain when when we are getting from confused to peaceful?
Yes. So I'm very fortunate because I was 16 years old when I asked my parents, why am I here? Why am I born? And my parents were absolutely flabbergasted. They were confused what to answer this little quick kid, But after that, what happened was a spiritual teacher came into my life, and she's amazing. She's based out of India. And I spent a lot of time with her. I traveled around 35 countries with her. And at that time, I would joke and say, I was fairly young. I'm talking about 25 years back. And I would say that, I'm happy horizontally meditating. I don't want to learn all this, so I'm basically happy sleeping. And many years later, I realized, oh my God, life is such a mess and I need my meditation, or I need this back. And she always jokes and says, good, at some point, you realize the need when you have the pain, that's when you get it, The whole point of understanding the mind and the body is because there is something called mind-body complex. So I cannot treat a patient just having a brain problem or a body problem. Mind is an integral component of this whole system. So there is something called psychoneurophysio-immunoendocrinology. I'm going to repeat it fast because I love doing that. Psychoneurophysio-immunoendocrinology. It is all starting from here, psychology, going on to the brain and going on across into the body system. Unless, there are many research has been done on it. And that's why, I love reading about all of this. And I have done a lot of practices because as a patient, when I'm treating a person, I feel if you are not treating or reaching the mind or the level, beneath, you're not doing justice to that particular person. There are 3 major problems which have been identified, and this has been studied enough for any disease that you take. Now, disease itself means you're out of ease, right? Disease, when anybody is suffering from anything. There are 3 fundamental issues which have been shown to be happening. What is that? The first and important thing is relationships, problem with relationships. Number 2 is, which you know very well, is problems with money. And number 3 is abundance of anything, so whenever you're indulging in anything. So these are the 3 fundamental factors beneath the disease process which happens. So for me, I cannot treat a patient outside in. I have to treat a patient inside out. Or if I'm talking to any person as a consultant, as a client also, I have to do it inside out. Now, we all think, that this is an interesting dialogue, because we all think that mind is somewhere here, inside the brain, and actually nobody has seen the mind. Mind cannot be seen because it's just a subtle flow of thoughts. It's a subtle flow of thinking. There is something called as the embodied cognition, which means, it's a very, very interesting this about it, that mind does not reside in just a particular place. Mind is sort of all over. And that is very clear. What happens when you are agitated, when your mind is agitated? You are restless. You're all across the place. And that is because your body is reflecting what your mind is doing. Now, take meditation, for instance. What you do in meditation, you sit straight. You still your body. The moment you still your body, you still your mind. That is how you sort of, get on to the level of the mind. And breathing essentially is a very, very intricately connected to the switch. So if you ask me, is there a switch to the mind? I won't mind, going a stab and saying that, yes, breathing is a switch of the mind.
Okay. That's important. Okay, yeah, talking about women, and you said, the physical and the mental and everything is so interconnected. So a lot of the ladies who are going through the menopause, okay, and there's a change in the hormone levels, etc. And a lot of women complain about depression, about fatigue, about, the skin looking bad and whatever else. So how much of that is psychosomatic, and how much is like because you're going through menopause, therefore you must have A, B, C, D? How much of it is perceived? How much is imagined? What's going on when you have a change in the levels of hormones?
Yes.
Endocrinology you mentioned, right?
Yes, absolutely. So hormones, I think what makes, again, women special is not just the brain, but the way the hormones are in the brain, right? The levels of testosterone is more in males, and then the level of estrogen and progesterone is what defines in a women. Now, these levels keep on fluctuating all the life, and at certain point in life, they sort of have a curve and plateau down, and then also further down. That's when we call menopause. And it's not that men don't have, that's called the andropause, the equivalent which men suffer as well. So it's sort of a time when the hormones are dwindling, are reducing, and quite substantially at a point when the menopause sets in. Now, obviously, because the hormone is taking care of skin, it's taking care of the digestive system, it's taking care of the mood, it's taking care of so many systems within the body frame. So it is going to happen that the woman can feel, very low, depressed. There can be mood swings. There can be these hot flushes, which a lot of people suffer from. There can be sleep issues. There can be bone, issues with the bone. Fractures happen quite easily. Calcium levels are a problem. Vitamin, other levels are a problem. So all this is a very natural thing, which is bound to happen. Now, when we, so let us say, and I tell this to every single person, every single woman that I meet in that age group, 50, 55, let us say here right now, as we are talking, it's going to shower heavily. What do? We just keep the umbrellas, right? We just keep we put shades and all. If we know that the shower is going to come, like absolutely, let's say it's going to rain cats and dogs, what do? We prepare. So the similar way, when we know the hormones are going to go down, what do we need to do? We need to prepare. We need to start reading about it. We need to start understanding the symptoms. We need to start talking to our peers. What could those symptoms be? For example, the problemless symptom is going to be that you're going to blast at somebody. You're going to go angry, and you may spoil the relationships, and you may have all this. So, and especially pre-menstrual also, it is just before your periods as well, this can happen. So just
hormonal.
Hormonal, absolutely. Just you circle the date, put it up there, be prepared. So I think all this is about education, awareness, being prepared. I mean, I wish we could say, no, it's not happening. I'm going to live 100 years, but we have to accept the fact. There's a very nice mantra which my spiritual teacher was telling, and it sort of has stuck in my subconscious. That mantra is being aware, care, and dare. The first step in anything is just being aware, and then you start caring about it, and then you dare to do something. By the way, there are a lot of meditations, there are a lot of techniques, the breathing techniques, which have shown to also keep those hormone levels sustained for a period of time. There are some supplements which also do the same, pyridoxine, vitamin B6 especially, some natural phytoestrogens such as soya. There are a lot of other natural stuff, primrose, etc., which all can help as well. So I'm not much a big fan that, okay, everything that happens, you can, whatever is fixed, break or broken, just eat a tablet and finish. It does not happen like that. You have to really work in this whole mind-body complex and fix it.
Yeah, I think that is something of an issue which is taking place a lot these days. And the other one is polycystic ovaries. So again, it's connected and to some part in the brain for sure. Because I know that a lot of young people go through tremendous amount of emotional upheaval. And just treating it with taking a bit of estrogen or progesterone or a birth control pill doesn't really help.
Absolutely, absolutely. See,
Yeah.
we all have two types of brains within our system. Okay, the brain itself. There is one called the limbic brain. I talked about the three brains, but let me just talk about the two important ones, because the fish brain and then the other brain,
Yes.
it's just doing our automatic breathing stuff. So we're not much. I mean, as long as it's breathing and as long as it's surviving us, it's okay. You know, we don't want it to stop. But there are these two brains which are very, very important. And one brain is called the limbic or the emotional brain, and the other one is called the rational or the cognitive brain. Most of us, Sandy, I would say roughly 70 to 80% of the people sort of have this fight, flight, or freeze limbic brain alive. It's always fighting. It's always fighting. When this brain is fighting, the upper brain or the rational brain cannot function. Now, what are those functions of that brain? Judgment, decision, problem-solving abilities, executive functions, thinking out of the box, doing and coming out with something new. That prefrontal or the frontal cortex is what is making us humans. However, what we are doing is, it's like we having, you know, if we go to fight a war, we are having all the best ammunitions and AK-47, but we are happy using a little pistol there, thinking that, oh, this is the best thing that I have. Exactly the same way we keep on working with this limbic brain, which is fighting, but we miss the whole beautiful frontal lobe, which we have access for. And that particular portion of the brain can auto-regulate emotions. It's sort of a rational this, you know, so not feeling threatened, not feeling the conflict driven, not feeling inadequate, not feeling that things are wrong. Everything, all of that thing can be overcome by building this frontal lobe. And how do you build it? That's the next question comes in, right? So exercises, having a proper lifestyle, meditation. I think I'm also a very great fan of, you know, if not meditation, proper breathing, doing some techniques. In my life, there is a very interesting technique called humming bee technique, or a pranayam. We call it in the Indian ancient literature as pranayam. That's Brahmari pranayam. It has been a pivotal force for me, and I can take that to the lab, and I have done a lot of experiments. Maybe someday I can share those experiments as well. So we have studied people and their frontal cortex before and after these kind of breathing techniques, after some days and after some days. What happens is there is a change in the circuit which is happening. So if you're able to change your circuits, everything can be sorted, you know, may it be PCOS or infertility issues. Infertility is a very, very big problem right now that as we speak is a thing, you know, divorces are a problem, relationships are a problem. So all this can automatically be sorted. It's like, you know, having, if I have, let's say I get a very, very weird looking iPod, let's assume, you know, that I get a beautiful, absolutely marvelous kind of an iPod, and the switch, I cannot find that switch, you know, where is it? And I don't dare to read the manual also. And I just try to figure out what the switch is and all, and I just blow it off, let's say. Exactly the same way, this is like that sophisticated instrument that we have, and unfortunately it does not come with a manual. So you have to, you know, in the childhood as we learn, and that's why schooling is so necessary. Living with people who can make you, who can give you that knowledge is very important. And then in that manual, you should know exactly where, what is happening and where are those switches, and then sort of do it. And the important thing is also knowing is knowing, doing is doing.
Correct. Absolutely. So true. So true, doctor. Okay, so I want to know a little bit about, you said, how do we know that our brain wiring is special? And you've written a book on that. So could you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So the book, I can just, you know, share it a little bit. It's
Future Ready Now.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is a book which is available in most 3,000 stores globally. It's number 8 in global counseling. So world number 8. It sort of climbed this pretty fast. And the only reason being that, you know, we're trying to get to the very basic neuroscience. It's an everyday brain science. And especially this book is talking about life choices, career choices, how do you make, yourself sort of heard, seen in life in any career that you take, especially starting from the young age, post-college, adults, and what is special about your brain? What is that brain print, which blueprint, which makes you have a wonderful life design? So we've spoken a lot about all these factors in the book. And what is interesting about the wiring or the this of it is that, each of us think very differently. So I have a very unique type of thinking pattern, while you may have a very different type of thinking pattern. But what we have tried to do is give that thinking metrics. If I understand this is how I think, I can start predicting how you think, and that can solve 50 to 80% of the problems, because I believe the major problem which happens in our lives is failing to understand each other, failing to understand and come to a common ground. You may be thinking in your ways, which may be a right way. I may be thinking in my way, but we may be having completely different viewpoints as what the brain interprets. So we have given this metrics. It's called the whole brain thinking matrix, and this has been worked upon by my mentor, Dr. Cobus Neethling, and we've worked together for many years. He is, again, a wonderful person. He's a Guinness Book of World Record holder for writing a book, 136 pages in 4 minutes. Wow. So imagine this is the wiring of the brain that we all can have, we can achieve, and we must do it. And especially for all those who are listening who have young children, please, that is where you can make magic. That is where you can bring any type of the thing that you want from that brain. It's essentially like a plain, clean slate. We can work magic with that.
Yeah, talking about children and magic and book, what is the other book that you talked about? Because from what I remember, it is something to do with failing and failure.
Absolutely. So see, the society is so conformed into success. Not many people talk about failure, and especially when it comes to children, that's one of the chapters in the book which we have written, that let's start celebrating failures, because we cannot only celebrate success, because that is what we need to mirror, because all of us, it's a very interesting thing in the brain, which is called mirror neurons. Okay. Today, with this, as we are talking, if I come absolutely like this, if I start talking like this, I'm just least concerned and bothered, you as a speaker would also get that energy, so because your brain would also fire exactly the same as my brain is firing, and this is called mirror brains. So we all emit frequencies of certain kinds as we are thinking, and we catch that frequency. So especially with children, when they look up at the parents, and then the parents are fighting, and then the parents are completely not interested in sort of the thing, they catch that. When they go to the schools, the same thing between the teacher and the parents. So all this mirroring, the mirror neurons are very important when it comes to the parenting, and when it comes to giving our children all these essential stuff about the neuroscience. So the point is, if we fail, we can showcase them that it's okay, because this is the growth that came out of the failure. Yes. This is what happens in the brain when you fail. You learn, you move on, you grow, you outgrow. So all this we have to teach our children. Unfortunately, it's not a very pleasant topic for a lot of parents talking about failure. But
I think it's more about the parents having to rewire their brains before they can, genuinely deal with situations which come up with their children. And I think this is also true about individuals who are grown up, because every time we fail, we beat ourselves up and we are depressed and we have so many other things. And instead of trying to learn from that and saying, okay, fine, it didn't work this way, that doesn't mean it's the end of the world. We can still do something about it, and we can learn from that, because I think failures in some ways is a good way, because it teaches you something from where you can actually move to the next level.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I had a distinct failure in my life when it came to, and it was a very interesting thing. It was one of my childhood friends, like very, very close, thick childhood friends. We grew together. She was the one who's done a lot of stuff in her life. And suddenly one fine day, there was this break of the relationship which happened, and it sort of hurt me quite deeply. And it was a failure. It was a failure of relationship, which was not supposed to be. And that taught me, that was a pivotal moment, which taught me so many lessons of my life, and one very important lesson which I learned during that process is that no grief, no pain, no hurt, no failure, nothing can remain in your circuits or in your wiring process for more than 18 months. Because neuroscience wise, these limbic circuits can only fire and stop firing at a certain point in life. After that, your rational brain kicks in. Yes, sometimes the memories do remain what we call scientifically in our language as PTSD, post-traumatic stress disease. It may remain as wired, but in those 18-20 months, if you are able to consciously live through it, then it's gone. You are a new being, you're a different person altogether out of that experience.
Wonderful. I think that's a great way of concluding our webinar today. Very positive. We can make changes even if we just change, don't focus on the thing that causes the pain and get busy in doing something else, and that sort of fades away, right?
Yes,
That's what you say, it just
does
fades
fade
away.
For
Yes.
sure.
Yes. And so that's a wonderful thing to know that, scientifically it's proven that within 18 months, it becomes something, oh, it happened, I really don't remember it. And so if we make a conscious effort to keep ourselves busy in something maybe creative or constructive or something which is keeping us in a positive frame, then we are actually helping ourselves. So what I've understood from you today is that the meditation and the positive thinking and whatever else is so very much connected to our physical brain, right? And
Yes.
when we learn about all the things that you've just said, it makes it so much easier for us to actually say, oh, you know what, it's not that difficult, it's not that challenging. And when I know that I can personally make a difference in my way of doing things, in my being, to be more peaceful, to be more energetic, to be more alert and attentive, then I think we're on the right track. And thank you so much for bringing us to that point where it doesn't seem challenging, it doesn't seem complicated, because I know neuroscience is very complicated, and you have the ability of bringing something so complicated to us in such a simple, understandable way, so that we can go away from this webinar and actually say, great, I can start doing that right now. So thank you very much, Doctor. And we're going to have you back again. You're going to be talking a lot more about the other interesting things you do. And in the meantime, please do keep listening to us. Please do. I know you're very busy, but Celestia is very happy to have you on board. And we look forward to being with you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sandi. I can be reached at Dr. Sweta.Adatia. I'm always there. My way of life is helping anyone out of the pain. And that's what I have been here for, and I'll keep doing. So thank you again for wonderful interaction.
Wonderful. We are happy to have you, and to think you just finished, a surgery or whatever it was, and there you are, all bright, ready, focused, full of energy, talking to us. So I've been absolutely amazing, and we shall meet again pretty soon. Thank you so much. So, ladies, if you haven't been able to watch us today, that's perfectly all right. We're on YouTube. We are going to be having this on our Facebook page again, so you can watch us there. But we would request you to subscribe to the Celestia YouTube channel and to press like and also leave a comment. We are growing our global community, and it's people like Dr. Sweta and many others that we'll be bringing to you, who are going to take this to a larger audience all over the world. And we hope that you'll join us again next week when I come back with another Ignite with Sandi. But for today, I am sure that we have succeeded in igniting those neurons. So take care and God bless.